Hello, this is Racer445 here for CG Tuts Plus, and I'm going to be showing you today the basics of subdivision modeling. Well, what is subdivision modeling exactly? Well, let us take a very basic model and make it something smooth and complex with a lot of sides in a short amount of time. So how exactly does this work? Well, we just have here a basic plane, 4 sides, and if we apply the Turbo Smooth modifier in 3DSmax, this allows us to subdivide this. So now we have 4 quads, as you see, and it's divided this one poly into 4. So if we turn the iterations up, we can get it into 16, and we can keep going up and up and up until the level of smoothness reaches the point that you desire. So here we have just a very basic rounded mesh here, pretty simple. And if we turbo smooth this, you can see that it gets very round and smooth. This does not mean, however, that you can take something that needs hard edges like this and needs to retain its shape, and just simply turbo smooth it and make perfect smooth round edges. If we add turbo smooth modifier to this, just this plain cube, you can see that it's now collapsed into this ball, and that's obviously not right. So in order to make this work, we need to add some control edges. Now, in 3DSmax here, I'm just going to tell you a couple of hotkeys that I've got. I've got Control W to select edge ring, which will select around like this. So I'm just going to quickly add an edge loop to show you. I've also got select edge ring set to Control E. And that's pretty much it. So anyway, if we get rid of this edge here, I'm going to select the edge ring, and I'm going to go down here to Edit Edges Connect, and I'm going to press the settings box next to it. Now I'm going to change the segments to 2, and I'm going to use pinch to place them, like this. So now we can keep doing this on all the other edges. Right, so now we've got some support edges, or control edges, whatever you want to call them. So now if we try and turbo smooth it, you can see that it's retained its shape and has the nice beveled light catching edges that everybody likes. So now that we've got that, tell you about adding some details. So here I've already modeled some floating geometry. Now what is floating geometry exactly? Well, this allows us to just simply float some detail above the surface. Now you can see obviously this won't work in film or whatever when you're animating this, and you'll obviously see the back faces and stuff in the render. However, for games, this is ideal because you can just bake this down on your normal map. Correct? And all the normal map rendering program is going to see is just like this. Nice and smooth. So it's great for games, not so good for film, unless you're normal mapping in film. So anyway, we've got this floating detail on here, and all it is if I go disable this turbo smooth modifier, you can see that it's just a 8-sided cylinder with one edge on the top to keep the flat shape on the top. Just an edge loop around here. If I highlight this real quick, around here, and then it's got an extra inset on the middle to keep the hard shape in the center. Right. So that's just floating above there. But what if we're working in film or something, or some kind of special occasion where we need to get this inset directly into the mesh? Well, we can do that pretty easily. If we go back to our cube, you can see that we have 4 corners on the cube, and we have 8 vertices here on the cylinder. So what we need to do is we need to add 2 more edge loops in order to get it so we have 8 vertices. So we've gotten two new edge loops in here, and we can simply delete this face. This face is where we want to inset it. Now we can attach the floating geometry here that we want to inset. Bring it down to about where the surface is. Go into border mode. Select both the borders, the one on the cube and the one on the floating, and then just bridge them. And so now if we turbo smooth it, there we go. That's about as perfect as you're going to get for that. But now here for an example, on the side we have some floating geometry that obviously has too many sides to add in. And it would take too much effort to add in all those sides and keep the correct mesh flow. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make one new edge around here. I'm going to delete the 4 quads in here. I'm going to attach this, just like we did before. Get it about where the surface is. You can go to an orthographic view and do that. So now it's about where we need it. And so we're just going to do the same thing. If we do bridge, now obviously that's not good because we got all these ugly triangles and stuff. Now triangles aren't bad, and if we subdivide this, you can see that there's no noticeable ugliness on the side. As long as it looks good, then you're in the clear. But when you're subdividing stuff, Max is always going to try, or whatever program you're working with, is always going to try to convert everything into quads. So usually this works pretty well and you won't get any issues, but in the case that there is any issues, you can fix up the triangles manually if you must. Just remember that triangles aren't always bad when subdividing. N-gons usually are an enemy though, unless they're planar. So here we've got an n-gon that's planar, and you can see that there's pretty much no difference, and it looks fine. So if the n-gon's planar, it's usually gonna be okay. But yeah. So just remember, triangles aren't always your enemy. But if you do ever need to triangulate anything when doing sub-D, make sure you make your triangles very large. They shouldn't be tiny little triangles like, for example, I'll make one right here. These little strip triangles, you don't want those. Those are very bad. If you want triangles, you want something like that. This big one here is a quad. Okay, that's a quad. So yeah, that's probably okay. Whatever. It does work. And as long as the client's happy. So yeah, that's pretty much that. And just as long as it looks good. Now insetting detail on more flowing rounded meshes is a little bit more difficult. But you can figure that out by yourself. It's not too difficult. With a bit of practice, you can get there. So now here, I'm going to show you a bit of how splines can be used. Now a spline here is just basically a kind of a line that you can adjust, and it'll automatically do everything for you, basically. So here, I've just got a spline here. And I can go chamfer some of these, make it more round. Right, but splines can be used other than the obvious for modeling purposes. Just doing something like that for say pipes or wires. That's always a helpful thing to do, but yeah, just like this. This is always a handy thing to do for making pipes or wires, as I just said. And there's another way you can use them. You can use them to align other objects along a surface. So what we've got here is we've got just this mesh here that is kind of round and bent, and I modeled this ahead of time, and we want to get this detail here along the edge of this mesh. So in order to do that, we need to make a shape, a spline out of one of these edge loops. So I'm just going to make an edit poly temporarily, just the modifier. I'm going to select this middle edge loop. Then we go down here to edit edges and say create shape. So now it's created a shape. It won't always be an object like this, but that's toggleable. So I'm just going to select the spline here. And you can see that's pretty smooth. So now we're going to go back to our floating geometry, and we're going to add path deform world space modifier. Now that's at the top of this modifier list, and it's called path deform WSM. So I'm just going to click that. Now down here in parameters, we're going to say pick path, and we're going to pick the path. So now it's going to go all weird. We want to say move to path, and it's going to move to path. Now we're going to play with the axis here until we find the one we want, and the one we want is X. So now you can see how it's kind of following the path already, and if we use %, we can get it to perfectly follow the path. You can use stretch to stretch it out. You can use rotation to rotate it in place. You may also use twist to do some weird twisting, which is usually good for some details. But so I think all these techniques can be used pretty much anywhere when doing hard surface modeling, and all these techniques are pretty common. So I think this will be it for the basics, and I think in just a second I'm going to show you how all these techniques apply in the real world, and I'm going to get to some modeling. Hey there, so an unfortunate accident occurred, and I somehow lost the first 7 minutes of this demonstration of sub-D modeling here. So I'm going to just do a quick recap on how I got to this point. So what I did was I started out by making the lens cover thingies and the eyepieces, rather. I plotted those out so I could get the distances correct, so that way the binoculars weren't way too wide or way too skinny. Then what I did is I started making the actual binoculars themselves by taking a cylinder and then basically just extruding off of that, adding edge loops, etc. to make the shape. So first I just made the cylinder, then I extruded it out a bit and made it larger and whatever to fit the reference shape. Then what I did is I extruded some of the side polygons so that way it would go out more towards the center. Then I just shaped that to fit the curved, the hinge in the center. So if you can see there on the side near the center of the binoculars, it's now curved in. I've also kind of fanned out the ends so that way it goes down into the eyepieces and whatnot. So then basically what I did is I kept adding in edge loops and stuff and smoothed out the shape. So really there's not too much else to it, but I found that it was important to make the eyepieces first to get the distance so that the proportions would be correct. Now this is actually my second take of doing this, and the first take came out like really wide, and the binoculars really couldn't be used because they were too wide and they just didn't look good. So I hope I corrected this in this second take. So I guess let's continue in a second. Notice also how this is still the blockout model, and I haven't added in any of those control edges that I talked about. It's simply it's a very low poly model, and there's not really too much to it yet. So in just a second or so, I think I'm going to start modeling again. Now also keep in mind this is double speed. So I'm back to the point where I was. Now what I did is I'm connecting this small extruded piece together. Just trying to extend this out a bit more. There's also this weird poly here, which doesn't make any sense. So I just added an edge, and I'm going to target weld that. So morph this to shape, and bring this vert up so it makes more sense and is more flowing. And this bottom area here also does not make sense because it's kind of sticking out, and that bottom part there is very smooth. So now I foolishly decided to add in a control edge when I should not have yet. But sometimes I want to do that just so I can test the sub-D stuff out to see if the shape's right. So now I'm just using chamfer to make this area smoother, so that way it's not really lumpy or whatever when you sub-D it. And just fixing up this, making stuff into quads. Not proper quads, but they are quads. They have 4 sides, so they're not sub-D perfect. But as you can see, the binocular shape is starting to get there, and definitely smooth. So now I'm going to bring these edges out so they're more rounded, more flowing shapes up in here. So now I'm again foolishly adding control edges in too early, and it's usually not a good plan to do that ahead of time. Usually it's best to just keep the blockout model until the very end, but I didn't. So I'm trying to figure out what to do, and this edge over so it's more rounded out. So now if you take a look at the reference, or actually I'll take a look at the reference in just a sec, you'll notice how there's sort of a curve. It doesn't just go from cylinder into the binocular shape. Like there's a weird curve at the top near that front lens piece thingy, and so I'm trying to get that a bit harder, but right now it's not acting nice. So still trying to figure out how I can do this right, and especially taking a look at that geometry there because it looks pretty bad. And you can see how it really curves down, so that's what I'm trying to imitate. So instead, I think I'm going to do. So I deleted that loop. Sorry for that skip there. I deleted that loop, and instead I decided to just chamfer this section. So there we go. That's more of what it's like, and it's not perfect, but we'll get there. And just gonna adjust the shape to fit how it needs to, make it a little bit more shapely. Really try and fit the reference here a bit more, or better. Fit in that little segment there. So just adding in that there on a new edit poly modifier, and also fixing up this bottom section, which does not look very good. So I'm just going to delete those and weld them together. Right. So now I'm going to chamfer this to smooth it out, and here we go. And originally I did it with 3 segments or whatever, but I decided that was too much. And adding a segment in there, gonna try and size it down maybe. Try and get it a little bit more round, like curved down like in the reference. That's a lot better. We're gonna keep editing this though. So see if we can fix up this weird geometry here. I'm not sure why this is like this, but we'll figure it out. Make it nice. Because quads like that do not work right. So I'm just gonna redo some of this geometry. I think that's a bit easier probably. Okay, adding in the control loops. And doing a chamfer on this so I can get it back into all quads. All quads are not necessary, but because I use a lot of triangles on this model. It doesn't matter because Turbo Smooth is going to automatically put them into all quads anyway. And if there's an error, you can just fix it. And there's also an end gun on that edge, but it didn't affect anything, so I kept it. And just trying to figure out why this thing is acting funny. I think it might be that top vert there, not the round vert. That works. I don't know. After a lot of poly pushing, it does end up right, however. So I just gotta undo it and try again. And just adjusting this vert so it's a bit more round. Also spreading these out so it's a bit softer of a fade. And just pushing some edges. Making it a bit more soft. And a lot of my problems came from this edge here that's too tight, and I'll show that in a sec. I didn't quite realize it until late that was what's doing it. So first though, I'm going to round off this a bit more, make this a little smoother. Push that vert. So yeah, this loop. So by moving that out, that solved a lot of my problems. I'm gonna add in a loop here to get back to quad form. Even though it's not right, but let's try subDing it first before we make any judgments. So there's a triangle there, and so this is a lot better. What I just did was I made a loop there, and that's not bad. I made a loop to fix the to make it into a quad, or weird quad. Then I manually cut in some loops to the lens piece, and I connected that, and I welded some verts, and I just added another loop to make it back into quads. You can go review that if you don't know what I'm saying, which you probably don't. So adding some more edges, chamfering this to make it smoother. Alright. Bringing down this vert a little bit to make it smooth. Moving some of these loops around, make it rounder on the end. Because with some of these thinner loops, it can bunch up, make it too dense. So also, you can notice how I'm using a triangle here. And if you ever use triangles with subD, you want to make them really wide, big triangles, because you see that doesn't really do anything. But if you have a thin triangle, it's going to screw stuff up a lot of times, especially on curved surfaces. A lot of people are probably yelling saying triangles are bad, don't have triangles, don't have n-gons in subD. In the end, it's always how it looks on the outside. So now I'm just using a relax on this section, a relax modifier, and expanding it a little bit, scaling it up. So the relax modifier will kind of smooth everything out a little bit more. It'll try and average everything out, all the verts, the distances and whatnot. It'll just generally make it smoother. So on top of that, I added an edit poly modifier, and I'm making some changes. So now I'm doing another relax here on this little loop, and I'm adding another edit poly. And adding some control loops and whatnot. So that's a lot better. So I'm just going to quickly subD these lens pieces, because they're not too important. And they just have a symmetry modifier on. So just adding in a couple loops. Oops. There we go. So now on the inside, just going to add in a little bit of detail. Control loops, add an inset into this. So I'm gonna turbo smooth it, and that looks okay, but it could use something else, so it's not just a cylinder. But for now, we can go back to working on our actual object. Just editing this to make it a little bit more round, a bit more circular. And so to save some time, I'm going to merge the old binocular scene I did, because this is my second take, remember? And this is just some pre-modeled floating geometry that I had. And I'm just going to delete the rest of it and keep only what I need. I'm just doing this to save time. Because, again, it's all the same principles. However, I just thought I should save some time. So just scale it up. And just getting the cylinder shape right. And now you can see that it's not the right angle, so I need to adjust that by simply selecting these top polys and rotating them so that they're at the right angle. So now there's this kind of strange bit here. These are kind of grippy sections. And you can see that's how the curve is set up. The gizmo. And just kind of center that, bring it up, whatever. So I need to play with the gizmo and whatnot to get it correct. There we go. So this is just pre-modeled ahead of time, just to save some time. And bring this bottom down so it's completely inside the actual binoculars and not just kind of floating on top with a visible back face. Visible deleted back faces. Alright. So I'm doing these other lens pieces. And just doing those kind of basic for now. And using extrude to make a indent just for show. And so now we have this kind of line there. Nothing too special. So that's not too bad. We're getting there pretty quickly. So now there's this indent where the rubber grips are also indented. And this is going to be done by just selecting some polys and using bevel to get the inset. And I have the bevel type to local normal. So I just did that twice. I did one in and down and one in and up. So it made that bevel. So now I'm just adding in the edge loops that I need to make it work properly. Adding the 2 here in the center now. And let's sub-D it first to see how bad that looks. It's not terrible. We could do better though. But if we add a loop in there, it's not going to play right. So let's just select in here and make it a little bit harder of a bevel. You can see that there's some bad mesh flow in there that's not making it look good at all. So let's see if I can add in a loop, and if that'll make it look ugly or not. And it does make it look pretty ugly. Yeah, that's not good. So we're just going to go back and we're going to see what we can do. So I'm just going to basically select a tiny portion of this loop. And we can edit from there. There's an angle on there and an angle on there. So make a big triangle. And there's nothing I can really connect it to there, so I'm just going to collapse that down. How does that look? A lot better. Not the best mesh flow in the world, but it does work. That's for sure. So up here, bad mesh flow as well. The indent is extending too far. However, the indent is also going to extend all the way to that metal hinge in the center there. And I'll change that in a bit. So I'm gonna move it towards this metal piece, rotate it to fit. Kinda bring out the edge loops so they're not all tightened up. Tighten up the graphics. Actually loosen up the graphics here. I have ignored back facing on, by the way. Really handy selection tool, so to make sure that you don't select stuff that's underneath stuff. So we're really getting there. We're getting near the end. And so now adding more detail to the front lens, which is just going to be done using edge loops and extrude. Quickly, oops, there we go. Just quickly adding some support edges in, and we got indents. And in here, we're going to make a lens, kind of an indented lens shape, and see how that looks. Now, since that big thing is an angon, it's going to have some ugliness, if you can see that there. So, in order to fix that, add in a couple edges there. We're just using cut. Add in one edge loop on the side. Bring that middle vertex out. Bring the little edge loop that we just added in out. And there, it's a little bit better. But it's too, there we go. So we had to scale down those middle polys, and now it's round. Nice. So just going through. Alright, we're getting there. Just scaling that out. Also, you can see there's some pinching on the main binoculars there that's making it not look round enough. I fixed that later, but I don't know if it got filmed or not. I've been having a lot of troubles with video capture lately. Again, this is my second take of this binocular modeling. So I'm just trying to get the angle exactly right and trying to get some of the edge flow better. Because there's some really tight edges that aren't making it look good. And that's better, but there's some ugliness on the end. So I'm just going to leave it like that, I think. I think if I just rotate this back, it'll look good enough. Yeah, so if I just rotate that back and bring it back, I think that'll look nice. Yeah, that's better. So there's still some ugly edges, but that can be fixed by there's like a dark spot there, so we can fix that by moving up some verts. Could also use a relax there, that would work. So that's better. It won't show up in renders. So if I just quickly render that out. You probably can't see it, but I could. Looks better. Kind of stumped what to do now. So now I'm just quickly adding a little light setup, which is just a colored light with skylight and stuff. Very basic, nothing fancy, but it does the job for a simple sub-D model render. And this is probably a waste of time actually filming the render. So just adding some light colors, but I think we're almost done here. And there's some edits that I did after the video is completed, but none of them were really important. A couple of them included adding a couple more edge loops to define some shapes, especially on the rubber grip thingies. And so I think that's about gonna do it for this tutorial video, and I'd like to give a big thanks to CG Test Plus, and I hope you've enjoyed. Peace.